Here's my project for today. It's a sweater that belongs to a friend of mine, and unfortunately it got a little close to the fire. It's an acrylic sweater, so it's kind of crispy on the edges. It really just melted away. These two other holes are a little smaller, and I'm going to start with them. The medium-sized hole I already did with just a regular rectangular patch, which is okay, but I might not be 100% happy with it yet. And this is only because today I'm going to be doing a heart-shaped patch with my Swift darning loom, and it's way more exciting. We're all in luck because I recorded the whole thing, and I would love to show you how I did it, and I would love to see your go at a heart-shaped patch, especially if you have a Swift darning loom, but all men's are welcome here. In case you're new here, I'm Alicia, or Worth Mending, most places on the internet. My partner and I designed and we make these darning looms ourselves. They're made from recycled materials in Kitchener, Canada. We've got them for sale and you can check out our website just at the link below to learn all about them. I need to start by marking the patch outline in chalk so I know exactly where to drop my warps and wefts. Then I'll get it situated on my work surface as usual. You'll notice that the point of the heart meets at kind of a right angle, which is really important for getting it set up on our darning loom. In this video, as well as all of my darning videos, I start warping my loom on the left side. That's because I'm left-handed and that's just the most comfortable way for me to do it. You can start on the right if you want. To get this heart-shaped patch, it's really important here that I'm following the outline of my heart with the bottoms of my warps. Of course, this means that my stitches are not going to be straight across as we usually aim for with these patches. Sometimes one leg of my warp pair will end up a lot higher or lower than the other, and that's perfect. I'm aiming to kind of follow that chalk line so that when I add the warps, it emphasizes that heart shape. As always, I'm starting and ending a big stitch underneath the fabric, which leaves a long loop on the backside that I can just pull when I'm finished and secure into the patch. As I'm weaving, of course, I'm going from bottom to top, and here that means that the length of my weft strands will also change as I move up towards the top. For the first few, I am just choosing which hooks I need to pull my needle through, so that I'm only weaving the very bottom tip of my heart here. Just like how I was careful for all of my warp strands to land on my heart outline, as I'm weaving, each of my weft strands also end on the marks to emphasize that heart shape. For my outline, I used chalk because that's just what I had handy, but any kind of mark making can work. If you have a special erasable fabric marker, that works. If you use something that's permanent, just make sure that your stitches are on the outside of that line so it's covered when your patch is finished. You can even just do your outline, say with a basting stitch or like a running stitch, just to act as a guideline for you. I had a tricky time getting the middle part of my heart where those two lobes meet to sit exactly where I wanted it to, so I actually picked out those rows a couple of times. Another very valid and important option as well is just to go with it. Leave those edges where they land, and if you want to cover them up later with maybe like a decorative embroidery stitch to smooth things over, you can, or just enjoy the process. It will still make a strong patch even if it doesn't look perfect. You can see here that the yarn I'm using is held double because it was a fairly thin, kind of a maybe lace weight yarn, and I wanted to give it a little bit more bulk. I missed this opportunity, but you can get some really cool color blending if you hold two thinner strands of yarn double. So that's the technique. As with all of my darned patches, you just kind of repeat it until you get all the way up to the top. And you can see I'm coming in with my weft pick every so often to even out the tension, see how everything lays. Of course, you can use a comb or a fork or even just your needle to push the threads around. I like the weft pick. When I do reach just about to the top on this, I do have one little trick that helped me to round over that second lobe nicely. On the second last weft pass, I lifted that last warp off the hook and pulled on the tail just to tug it down a little bit, then proceeded with my very last weft pass before taking my work off the loom. Stitching down those loops is the same as always. I stitch down at the end of my last row, bring it up just in between those first two warps, and I grab my warp loop from back to front, stitch down basically right beside where I came up, and come up again at the top of the next warp loop. You just repeat that all the way across. I like to do 3 or 4 of those securing stitches just loosely and then tension them down in a group. One little difference is the warp loop I took off early is out of line with the rest of them, so don't forget to stitch that one down too. Then I bring all of those loose ends to the back. Since this sweater sadly isn't mine, it's for a friend of mine, I wanted to do a really good job securing those ends just so that they were comfortable. So I stitched them through that backing fabric, I looped them through the edges of my patch, and just made sure that it added lots of friction so that they don't work themselves loose, and then cut them fairly short on the inside just to avoid any tickly stuff when you're wearing this garment. Next up, I do still have to tackle that massive hole on the other side of this sleeve, and I've got an idea for it that I'm excited to show you next time. Hope you enjoyed this one, and if you have any further questions or ideas for other unique shapes that we could try on the darning loom, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Take care and happy mending!